All right. Well, gosh, welcome to Mindset Minutes. My name is Joan Robison. I am an entrepreneur, a leadership coach, and the author of Flip the Switch. I'm really excited to be here today. And my mission is to help people close the gap on fear and limiting beliefs by offering you quick tools and tips that are relevant in today's world, in our fast-paced world, for your business and for life. So I want to welcome all of you. If you are on YouTube, go ahead and click like and subscribe to the channel. You're going to start seeing a lot more regularity and me popping up here quite often. If you are a part of my Flip the Switch community, I want to welcome you to the live today. And I just want to say hello to everybody in the comments. I'm really excited to be here today. We're going to be talking about objections. And over the years, gosh, I've been doing this business and working on these types of tools for about the past 20 years. And certainly as times have changed, we've perfected some of the tools, added different things that seem to be more relevant for today's now, working more online, and still, however, using those communication skills to make deeper connections and build relationships, which is what it's all about. And I'm really excited today to have one of my good friends, an entrepreneur herself and leader, Ms. Risa Garrett. I'm going to pop her on in just a minute. And Risa and I are really going to talk a little bit about objections. And I just kind of want to ask her a few questions about when she first had objections. How did it really make her feel? And what are some of the things that she's learned over the past? Then we'll dig right into the 3-step process, and who knows, maybe we'll role play a little or we'll talk a little bit, but I'm going to pop Risa on. So here is Risa. All right, Risa, let's see here. All right.
Hello, it's so fun to be here. I love it.
Do you have your drink? You got your nice
little... don't you know it? This is the only way to start the day.
Right. I already had a cup of coffee. Now we've got onto the iced tea. So Risa, let's chat a little bit about objections. Gosh, I know that in the different people that I work with and coach with, it seems that when most people get faced with an objection, a lot of times people freeze or they become overly trying to convince somebody why they shouldn't feel that way. And I just kind of want to know, before we dig into the tips, how did you feel when you first got some objections, and kind of tell us a little bit about kind of where you've come from there?
Yeah, for sure. So, oh my gosh, I think that can just be one of the most challenging things to overcome, like in life, really, but also in a business like this. And, in the beginning, when I heard an objection or a no, it really landed in a way that felt like it was all about me. I don't know what that says about me, but kind of like, I took it really personally, whether it was me personally or what I happened to be offering. And, it landed really hard, and sometimes would put me in a position where I would just, I think you used the word freeze, where I just kind of stop, and then I'd start really kind of questioning myself and doing a bunch of like negative self-talk, which we know is never good, and so it would land really, really hard. And I would take it as just like an objection, as like a hard no forever.
Okay.
And so I know we're going to dig into a little bit more around that later today, I'm sure too. So,
but I think the key that I want everybody to hear from Risa is it's not uncommon when we hear objections to think of it as, oh my gosh, they don't want to do this, or oh my gosh, they're resisting me, or it's a reflection of me. And what we all know to be true after we've worked through those, for those of us that have overcome objections, is objections are actually the opposite of that. They're actually a sign of interest. So, what I want to challenge everybody out there listening today is, how do you view an objection? And do you need to change your thinking when it comes to an objection? I also know, Risa, I mean, there's tons of books on objections. You can beat them to the objection so we don't have any objections. We can, try different tech or different ways of getting through it. But I have found that I have a 3-step process that I'm sure I learned over the years from some great trainer, and have utilized that and then just added and tweaked a little bit along the way. And I found that when I use this process in order, it truly helps you move through to a solution or to the next place. And really, at the end of the day, the objection is about me supporting the person to work through it, not convince, not really even handle them, but I mean, we're dealing with what they're objecting to. And oftentimes, for those of you that are using a pen and paper, make a note of this. An objection not only can be a sign of interest, so write that down. An objection is a sign of interest. It's also an invitation to know more. And I'm talking about the KNOW, right? Oftentimes people will object to things like, maybe it's time, for example, but they don't realize that they could do maybe the business that you're offering, or maybe they could still go to the event that you're planning because it really could be done in less time than what they're visualizing, right? So it's an invitation to know more oftentimes. So, Risa, I want to just ask you, what do you feel are the most common objections that you hear out there?
Yeah.
I mean, just, when you think about it, just kind of, what do you think?
Yeah, I think in particular, and maybe even in particular right now, this time of year, time and money. Everybody has a full life, and everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but, a lot of people will look at something and say, gosh, I just don't have the time, or I don't have the money right now.
Okay. So to me, those I also hear a lot. And for those of you out there, certainly we're maybe speaking around business, but I want you to even think about this in your daily life, because many of you have large families or friends groups, kids sports, and you'll hear some of these same things. Well, we'd love to do that, but we don't have time. Or, gosh, that sounds really great. I'd love to put my son or daughter in that activity, but our money's tight. So just be aware that, we're hearing these objections all day long in your lives and possibly in business. Today, for the sake of it, we're going to talk more business, but these tips I'm giving you will help you even in your personal relationships with family and friends. So one thing I want you to write down is, we want to respond versus react. So write that down. We want to respond versus react. So let's take a look at this 3-step process. And then, Risa, maybe you and I will come back to kind of time and money as a couple. Let's see how our timing goes. But no matter what the objection is, I believe that it's showing interest. The person is engaged, they're listening to you, and we can reframe. So we can take a new belief, and I want to encourage you today to do that, about how you see an objection. So some of you out there might be going like, whenever I get an objection, I freeze. So let's just reframe it right now. Objections are a sign of interest. They are a good thing. And I will go so far as to tell you the way I feel. if I don't have some form of objection, I tend to think, wow, they probably haven't thought it through. Now that's when it comes, bless you. That's when it comes to business, okay? But it may be also true in, like I said, some of the interpersonal relationships. So to me, when somebody's giving me an objection, I at least know this: I have their attention, and that is a good thing, right? If I'm ignored, ghosted, no callback, that's not such a good thing. And that may show no interest. We can obviously move on from that too. But going back to the objection, I want you to believe today, going forward, it is a good thing. And now I'm going to give you the tips to get through those. So the first step is we want to acknowledge the objection and validate. So let's say that Risa was giving me the objection, I just don't have time. Risa, don't you find that many objections that come your way, the first instinct is we want to tell someone why, oh, it's not that much time, or here's why you don't want to feel that way. Don't you kind of tend to feel that?
Yeah, it's super funny that you're saying that, because I literally just wrote down objections. It's an opportunity to learn more, right? Ask more questions versus tell more,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's right. That's it in a nutshell. And this is part of the process. So you want to follow these steps in order, not any other way. Okay. So the first one is acknowledge. So words to acknowledge somebody are, I appreciate you sharing that with me. I get it. I can understand where you're coming from. And we want to validate that person, because the whole idea is we want the person to move closer to us, not further away, and certainly not run for the hills. If I come in a telling way and try to tell you or anybody why they shouldn't believe that way, I mean, now we've just created distance between us. And I don't want distance. Even if the outcome is not maybe what you think you want, right? I'm not even thinking outcome. I am thinking right now, how can I support this person? How can I listen so closely that I have that empathy for where they're at and that understanding? Chances are I've probably felt that way before myself. So we acknowledge, we validate, and then step 2 is to ask open-ended questions. And what is that for? To gain more knowledge. So if I'm somebody that kind of wants to go, oh no, you shouldn't feel that way. Oh, you're misunderstanding. Right away, we've got now some distance, because the person that's hearing that is feeling that I don't understand them, or you wouldn't understand where they're at. And so now I'm going to just describe, if we didn't do it that way, we would then have a little bit more of a shutdown with our communication. All right. So some of the questions that we could ask, so let's just take that right now, Risa, like time. So I might say something like, gosh, I know, I understand, and I do. I appreciate you sharing that with me. It sounds like you have a lot going on with your son and graduation. So tell me a little bit more about your timing and what that looks like. And then Risa would kind of go into maybe just giving me a little more information.
Would you like me to do that?
Yeah, just go ahead.
I would love to give you
role play, right?
Yeah. Okay. Oh gosh, I'd love to. Yeah. So this is our first son graduating from high school, and graduation is on June 9th, and we're doing a graduation party and dinners leading up to that. So I'm getting announcements and all those invitations and everything kind of all dialed in. So
oh, how fun. Now, guys, at this point, I'm going to pause and I'm going to ask Risa a couple questions about her son because I'm interested. Now, let's say we just did that, and now I'm going to bring her back. Remember, I'm the one who is facilitating the conversation. So I'd say, you know what? That is so amazing. Now, Risa, I want to bring you back to what is most important to you. So I know you're considering starting a business in the summer, and I know you've got your other full-time job, like you said, and now you've got your son graduating, all these things going on, and it does make for a really full life. I get it. Tell me though, what it is that you truly want this business to look like for you.
Yeah. Well, family is number one for me. And so, really what I'm looking for is to not take away from that, but instead it would be so cool to be able to bring in, some additional money. One of the things, my son's going out of state for college, and I don't know that he's going to want to come home every month or want me to come visit every month. Yeah. But I want to kind of have that as a security blanket. I want to be able to, on the fly or in advance, have a ticket for him or me or my husband or daughter to go visit once a month all year long, September through May. So I don't want that to be a barrier. So the money would be really great. I could do that. And that would still, allow me a lot of time with my family.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the money. How much money are you kind of wanting? And again, I know you're beginning this business. What is it that you need immediately, like 30, 60, 90 days? What's going to make you feel really comfortable that you've made a good decision? What kind of money do you want?
Well, if I'm thinking about the airplane tickets, and, probably wanting to have some left over, like wanting it to be worth my time, quite honestly, yes. I would say like, if I could be making, like bringing in like $1,000 a month,
Okay.
That would be meaningful.
All right. So I've got down here $1,000. I also wrote a couple notes because what's important to me is to know what's important to you so that I can help you get that. And I get the whole picture because you've explained it really thoroughly. And I appreciate knowing that. So let's see here. We got $1,000. We have families really important. I love the idea of being able to, maybe visit once a month. And how cool is that for you? Many people never get to do that, even quarterly, right? So really cool. Here's what I might put out there to you. So if I could show you a way where we could get you going without a lot of effort right today, in other words, I know your priorities, would you say yes to getting started?
Yeah, I think I would probably want a little bit more information around what that looked like, but yeah, I would definitely be open to that. I mean, that would be exciting, if we could create that and I could still have, work on having a good balance and
yeah,
that for sure.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm just going to throw it out there to you and you let me know if this works for you. So what I'm thinking is if we got you started today, got you enrolled, got everything in motion, in the meantime, while you're doing your job and planning some of the things, you know how we are as moms, we'll be having a morning coffee and you're kind of excited and getting, all amped up about the trips you're going to take. You get your calendar out and you plan your next 12 months or 8 months, however long he's at school, and start literally physically putting in those dates to your calendar. In the meantime, your stuff is ordered, it's on the way, and you could just begin at your pace over the next week looking through the training, and I could just kind of get you going at your pace. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. All right. Okay. Cut. No. Okay. So I really just wanted people to see, like, that was just kind of obviously canned, those of you kind of know Risa maybe, or I, and obviously that's it's somewhat of a real situation, but not all the way. But my point is, notice we validated her, we made her feel good, we asked more questions to gain that deeper understanding, right? And that is number 2 when it comes to overcoming an objection. And then we rephrase what she said and move forward. And I want to point out a couple different things in here. When we ask questions to get the full story, notice that right now, today, she just has got a lot on her plate. But this is where people will miss, because people will hear someone say, you know what, I don't know if the timing's right, I'm really booked. And then they go, okay, why don't you get back to me when timing's better? Or maybe even a little better answer might be like, okay, when do you want me to get back to you? But here's my point. We have to think outside of the box, because it takes a little time for kits. Doesn't matter what company you are, they're not shipping in 24 hours, right? I mean, it takes some time to get the person in, get their kit shipped, and then they could be doing some things at their own pace, not feeling overwhelmed, but yet she's in the system moving forward with what she wants. Notice how I said, grab a calendar, schedule out those dates, focusing on what's important to Risa. That is the key to objections. It's nothing about me. It's never about me. It's always about how I can best help her. So I like to say you become like a doctor or a Clouseau. You're putting on a little bit of a different hat to understand her more. And those open-ended questions, who, what, where, when, and how, are going to help you uncover more of what is important to her. So this might have been a little bit kind of over the top, like that's a lot of information and there are only 3 steps. So I'm going to repeat the 3 steps. The first thing is we acknowledge and validate. We ask open-ended questions to gain more knowledge, and we rephrase what's important to her or what we heard her say, and then we move forward with some options. Now, I just kind of came out with it and just said, like, if I could show you a way that you could do everything you're doing right now without basically feeling overwhelmed, and we could get you started, would you say yes today? Or are you open to that? And she said, yeah, I want to know a little bit more info, but yeah, that's really how to move through an objection to get to the other side. So what I'm going to do is give you a couple last do's and don'ts. And Risa, I want to thank you so much for being part of our Mindset Minutes Objections training today. I know that you and your team are doing amazing things. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you. I love working with you and it's so fun. So couple do's and don'ts. All right. Don't take it personally. It's never about you. Don't argue, confront, or react. Don't skip parts of the process. In other words, you don't want to acknowledge and validate and then go, here's the solution, right? We want to talk about them and what's important to them by asking those questions. Okay, do ask questions until you fully understand. Do let them know you're on their side. Do be honest and empathetic. I will share this last thing with you. Many times people will give an objection that isn't even really the true objection. And they just do it because, well, I'll give you one example before we wrap up today. Sometimes people will say, I don't have the money. Okay. That's another one that comes up. I don't have the money. And what I want you to hear out there is most people, I'm going to say most, because I'm not going to say everyone, but most people do have the money. We just haven't sold them on the idea of the investment and what it's going to do for them. Does that make sense? So, you know, it doesn't really matter what it is, whether it's a business kit, a product, a big purchase. If somebody says, I don't have the money, typically it's they're not sold themselves to make the investment. So oftentimes when I get that same objection, I don't go, well, I believe everybody does have the money. No, I don't say that. I would say, you know, I can appreciate you sharing that with me. Let me understand a little bit more around, you know, what is important to you. And I want to kind of know if you were going to invest in something like this, what would you need it to look like? What would need to be here, whatever this investment is, right? For you to feel like you would want to invest. Now, I'm being very general, but many of you are in different direct selling companies, network marketing companies, you're entrepreneurs, and you know, it could be a product within your store or a service you offer. So it's really good to understand that not everybody is going to be your client, right? That it just may not be. And you might go through this process. And like I said, the end result might be still, they don't want that product, service, company, whatever. It's okay. My hope for you as we end today is that you take the process and that you begin practicing these 3 steps so that you will have the courage and the confidence to meet any objection head on and know that it is a good thing. So, Risa, thanks so much. And gosh, everybody, I just want to say we've got a lot of great things coming up very soon. And I've got some big announcements over the course of the next week. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.